are able to join and getting fed out there for the public. So with that then, I want to welcome everyone. And today we have on our agenda, we're going to open the hearing on Senate Bill 425, providing for child support orders for unborn children from the date of conception. And with that then, we will ask for a bill brief from the reviser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning, committee. You should have a bill brief for Senate Bill 425 in your file. This, as the chairperson says, this is a bill that provides for child support orders for unborn children from the date of conception. Section 1, there are 2 sections. A couple sections. Section 1 amends KSA 20-165. That is a statute that requires the Supreme Court to adopt rules establishing guidelines for child support. So this is the statute that leads to the child support guidelines that the Supreme Court adopts that you may be familiar with. The current law there in subsection B requires the court to consider several relevant factors when they're adopting the rules, and the bill would add a new factor, number 10, in line 24 there, that would require the court to consider the factor of direct medical and pregnancy-related expenses of the mother if the child is an unborn child. New subsection C, right below that in line 26, provides that the maximum amount of child support ordered for the support of an unborn child shall not exceed the direct medical and pregnancy-related expenses of the mother, and that pregnancy-related expenses shall not include any costs related to an elective abortion. New subsection D, that's in line 31, provides that the amount of child support determined for the support of an unborn child shall be calculated from the date of conception, and that interest shall accrue at the statutory rate provided under the other statute that's referenced there, KSA 16-204. Section 2 then amends part of our family law code, particularly the Kansas Parentage Act, which is this particular section is KSA 23-2205, part of the Parentage Act. Current law provides that the parent and child relationship means the legal relationship existing between a child and the child's biological or adoptive parents, incident to which the law confers or imposes rights, privileges, duties, and obligations. It includes the mother and child relationship and the father and child relationship. And what the bill does is add a new subsection B, which you find on page 2 in line 15, that would provide that for purposes of this section, child includes an unborn child, as defined in the section we were just, that we're about to talk about, 23-3001. So turning then to section 3, KSA 23-3001. This again is part of the Kansas Family Law Code. A little further down from the Parentage Act, though, but it provides some definitions that are used and some procedures that apply in any action under Article 27 of Chapter 23, which is, again, part of the Family Law Code, relating to provisions of support and education of minor children. The new provision here in subsection C, which you find on page 3 of the bill, you see some stricken language and then some new language on page 3 of the bill. This would provide the definition of unborn child that would be used in Article 30 of Chapter 23. And I won't read it to you. It's there on that page. And then I'll note that this would become effective on publication in the statute book, so July 1st of this year. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you. And want to, before we proceed, announce that on WebEx today, we have joining us Senator Wilborn, Senator Baumgardner, and Senator Haley. And for purposes of committee, questions are permitted by committee members who are on WebEx, but not participating in making any motions or any voting on motions or final action or any voting. But questions are permissible from WebEx. And with that, then we'll open it up for questions for the reviser. Do we have any? And I'm going to ask if someone can help watch for hands raised on WebEx, that would be helpful. Thank you. Yes, and Senator Corson with a question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think this is probably for research, and my questions are, how many states have codified fetal personhood in their statutes generally? And then how many states have similar laws that would allow someone to collect child support in this situation? Thank you, Madam Chair. Those are my two questions.
And that may be a question for proponents if research is not able to look that up, or they'll look it up while we're hearing the bill and maybe come back with answers. If you can do that, that would be great. Do we have other questions for Mr. Thompson? Not seeing any. Thank you. Do we have a question on WebEx?
If you're looking for mine, this is Haley, Madam Chair. Senator Corson asked my very questions. If this is unprecedented, or if there was model legislation that had been generated from, some think tank, because I'm unfamiliar with any other state, and so I'll look forward to an answer to Senator Corson's two questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And committee then. We will then invite our first conferee, our first proponent conferee, Brittany Jones with Kansas Family Voice. And I'm thinking there's going to be lots of questions. So we're going to limit conferee testimony today to 5 minutes. So if every conferee could keep it to 5 minutes, and I'll keep a timer to keep us on track for that. So with that then, please introduce yourself and welcome to committee.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Brittany Jones, and I'm the Director of Policy and Engagement for Kansas Family Voice. Thank you all for being here bright and early on this post-Super Bowl morning on a very exciting weekend. So I will keep my comments pretty brief today. I think it's a pretty straightforward bill, but we'll be happy to stand for questions at any point. We care deeply about supporting mothers, about recognizing children, and supporting families across the board. We believe a family has a mother and a father, and we're talking about a child. We believe that child is created from a mother and a father, and that both should support that child. And so that's one of the big reasons why we think that SB 425 should be passed, and we should amend our child support statute to ensure that unborn children are considered when we're looking at child support payments or decisions. So according to the most recent numbers, there are around 12,000 women in Kansas who gave birth to children who were not married. There's about, I think, 35,000, I have to look at the exact numbers of babies born in total. This implies that there will be quite a few child support proceedings around these children. It's not guaranteed that there will be some sort of proceeding, but it is highly likely that those proceedings will occur. It's a simple bill. It simply ensures that when a court is considering child support, they should consider the unborn child in that child support, and that they should consider pregnancy-related expenses. So this is something that many courts are already doing. It's something that's done in proceedings already. It's not a new concept, a new idea, but it is simply ensuring that this body is directing the Supreme Court when they consider those child support guidelines, that they can include this in those guidelines. To a question that was asked earlier, I would have to do further research to get an exact number, but I know of at least 2 states that already have a similar provision in their code. I think it's Georgia and Arkansas. I think there's more than that, but those are the ones that I'm recently aware of, and there may be more than that. So it's important to ensure that fathers are providing for their children, that they are ensuring that their children are taken care of, and that the mother of their child is taken care of, especially when it comes to pregnancy-related expenses. We know that women face cost related to pregnancy that women who are not pregnant don't face. And so this is a simple bill to ensure that they are taken care of in that process. It does not change the procedures for ascertaining paternity or any other proceedings around the child support decision. And so it doesn't do, and it simply states that the child should be considered and that pregnancy-related expenses should be considered. The court is still allowed to use its discretion when it makes these findings and makes these decisions. So we believe that every life is valuable and that every woman should be surrounded by a system of support during her pregnancy. Is especially true during pregnancy, as a woman is often most vulnerable or in most need of support in that season. So we would ask that when you consider SB 425 that you vote it out favorably, and I stand open for questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll hold questions until we hear from all the proponent conferees. And next, we will be hearing from proponent conferee Mackenzie Maddox from Kansans for Life. Please introduce yourself and welcome to committee.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairwoman Warren and members of the committee. I'm Mackenzie Haddox, Deputy Communications Director with Kansans for Life. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today in support of Senate Bill 425. You have my testimony in front of you, but quickly, I'm just going to highlight a couple of key points. Many women facing unexpected pregnancies choose abortion because of financial insecurity or uncertain relationship status. They deserve the utmost help in their time of need, including support from the father of the preborn child. According to 2022 data from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, 36% of all births were to single mothers, and 84.5% of all abortions were performed on single women. Senate Bill 425 addresses some of the financial concerns pregnant women face by instructing the court to consider the direct pregnancy-related medical and other expenses for the mother of a preborn child when establishing guidelines for child support payments. Overall, no woman should ever feel that abortion is her only option, and Senate Bill 425 may help alleviate some of the financial stress a pregnant woman faces at a critical time for both her and her child. Thank you for your consideration. I respectfully ask that the committee pass Senate Bill 425 out favorably, and I also stand for questions at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Are there any other proponent conferees in the committee meeting room or on WebEx? Not seeing any. So we do also have proponent written only testimony from Lucretia Nold, Kansas Catholic Conference Public Policy Specialist. And with that, then we will open it up for any questions. Yes, Senator Corson.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair, and thanks to all our proponents for being here. As you could maybe tell from kind of my questions to research, I want to better understand the fetal personhood aspects of this bill, because it strikes me that enshrining fetal personhood into our statutes would have far-reaching implications on really a whole host of civil and criminal laws, and I'm not sure that the committee has a good grasp on that, and so I'd like to just have a better understanding of the fetal personhood aspects of this legislation. Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I think there's a question in there, but go ahead. Please introduce yourself.
Brittany Jones with Kansas Family Voice. I think I can address some of this question, and I'm sure research can give you a full list of the places throughout our code where an unborn child is already recognized. An unborn child is already recognized in criminal law and Alexa's law. If an unborn child is killed in several different, either through manslaughter or homicide, that child can be recognized and is recognized for criminal proceedings to ensure that the person who killed the mother and the child is held responsible. So this is not the first time that we've seen this in the code. We also have a public policy of supporting life and of recognizing life in the womb in Kansas. And so that's simply all this bill does. It doesn't have other impacts on the code. It simply recognizes that for these proceedings, that women deserve support and that these children deserve to be the support of their father.
Thank you. Are there other questions? Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if you could come back up for us, Brittany. When I first heard about this bill, I thought of it differently, and now it makes more sense to me.
Good.
And when I first heard about it, I thought, how would we determine when this baby's in utero that we would know who the father is, et cetera. But this does not start until after the baby is born, correct?
So
this child support.
Brittany Jones, Kansas Family Voice. The bill does not direct the court on how to determine that paternity. They're often already determining paternity in utero. There are already procedures to determine that, but it doesn't direct the court exactly how to do that. They can do it once the child is born and they determine paternity and backdate it, or they can do it while the child is still in utero.
So you're leaving this up to whom to determine when to start this child support?
So because this is only for the Supreme Court's guidelines in determining child support, it's up to the Supreme Court and to the judges that are making these determinations. They already determine all of those details. That's already a part of their deference and part of their job to determine the details of how those determinations are made.
And does the woman have to file for child support, I'm assuming?
There would have to be a child support proceeding that would have to be initiated by the mother.
By the mother.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for answering my question.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Thank you. Committee, other questions? Not seeing any. Then are there any neutral conferees? Not seeing any. And we will then have our opponent conferee come to the podium, please. Taylor Morton, Kansas lobbyist and policy analyst, Planned Parenthood, Great Plains Votes. Please introduce yourself and welcome to committee.
Good morning. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Taylor Morton. I'm with Planned Parenthood Great Plains Votes, which is the political and advocacy arm of Planned Parenthood Great Plains. I'm here today to voice opposition to Senate Bill 425 on the grounds that, as Senator Corson raised, it would establish fetal personhood language, which is really just a means of advancing an anti-abortion agenda in Kansas, despite broad public support for abortion access in our state. Additionally, the implementation of Senate Bill 425 raises serious concerns from both a financial and bureaucratic standpoint. Some of these concerns have already been raised. And in addition, Kansas is experiencing a serious maternal health crisis, and we need real policy solutions that would provide meaningful supports for pregnant persons and families in Kansas. As Senator Corson's already raised concerns about, there is serious negative implications of implementing such fetal personhood language into our statute. This is a tactic that's been used by those who oppose comprehensive sexual and reproductive health and healthcare by elevating the rights of a fetus to equal to or even superior to those of a pregnant person. And this, again, is a tactic that's used to make it easier to enact anti-abortion laws down the road. And it is in direct opposition to broad public support for abortion access in Kansas. Furthermore, the lack of clarity in this bill really makes it unworkable, from things like what does a pregnancy related expense mean and what is the exact date of conception. A positive pregnancy test in itself does not indicate the birth of a child, and this bill fails to put forth any meaningful structure for child support payments for a pregnancy that may end in miscarriage, abortion, stillbirth, or a child that is birthed and then put up for adoption. Determining paternity is another challenge in implementation of these bills that could be very costly for the state of Kansas. Contracting for in utero genetic testing to determine paternity and the administering of that in utero genetic testing, again, would be nearly impossible to implement or very difficult to finance. Implementation of this bill would, put a strain on our state budget. As well as, again, establishing that very dangerous language in our statute. We do need real policy solutions that are evidence-based and meaningful for supporting pregnant people and families. I have a list in my written testimony of just a few of these potential policy priorities, things like expanding the access to the full range of comprehensive sexual and reproductive health care for pregnant people, expanding eligibility and benefits for social safety net programs like SNAP, WIC, and TANF, funding for VA health systems to support pregnant and parenting veterans, funding for community-based organizations that work to improve maternal health, investing in mental health and substance use disorder treatment for pregnant and parenting people, just to name a few. Like I said, this is not an exhaustive list, and there is a need for real policy change in our state that supports pregnant people and families. But Senate Bill 425 is not a real means of doing that. It purports to address the financial burdens of pregnancy and parenting, but all it would accomplish in reality is codifying that fetal personhood language into Kansas law and granting legal rights to a fetus or an embryo, whether directly or through backdoor policies such as this one, would have really immense and very harmful consequences in the long run. Kansans have said and made it very clear that they do not want their reproductive rights and healthcare restricted. And this bill could pave the way for laws that would punish a pregnant person for seeking essential care. And so I do strongly urge the committee to take these into consideration and vote against Senate Bill 425. Thank you, and I will stand for questions at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Are there other opponent conferees in the committee meeting room or on WebEx? Not seeing any. Then are there any questions for the opponent conferee? Not seeing any. So thank you very much. Appreciate the testimony today from everyone. And with that, then we will close the hearing on Senate Bill 425. And we do then have time for final action on bills previously heard. And committee, I'd like to draw our attention first to the two National Guard related bills that we heard, I believe, on Friday last week. And if we could have an informational briefing from the revisor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't identify myself last time. So Jason Thompson, Office of Revisor of Statutes. The bill you're referring to is Senate Bill 292. Senate Bill 292 is the bill that updates many statutes related to the Kansas Army and Air National Guard. It also provides for the appointment of a state judge advocate. And finally, it provides for the adjustment of death and disability benefits. As the committee may recall, this is the one that provides for the adjutant general to appoint a state judge advocate, which is similar to some positions they have now, but this would be a different title and a different appointment. And then you could have assistant state judge advocates to that person. And then the other major, other than the updates throughout the whole Article 1, 2, and 3 of Chapter 48, the other major change was just to make clear that the Military Disability Board that's already established by law can adjust the percentages that are awarded for disability and death benefits to the members of the Army and Air National Guard that qualify for those. Rather than being a fixed amount, they can be adjusted annually on and after July 1st of the year after the bill goes into effect. So those are the couple major provisions.
Thank you. Committee, are there questions? Senator Gossage.
Sorry, Madam Chair, no questions. I thought we were ready for a motion.
Thank you for that, Senator. We do have one technical amendment that we need to consider, and it is revising the dates, since this was a holdover bill from last session. And I think the bill as currently written states that it becomes effective, I think, July 1st of 2023. And we're not going to do that retroactively. So we'll need, if there's an amendment that we have.
Madam Chair, Jason Thompson again, and I didn't prepare one for this one. I apologize. It's fairly straightforward. There are 3 places that the date 2022 needs to become 2023. Those are KSA supplement references. So it just updates the reference to the sup. And then 1 place in the bill where it directs the board to begin this process on July 1st of 2024. And that should probably be July 1st of 2025. That's the one I mentioned in the hearing that I asked them to correct me if I was wrong on that, and they didn't. So I think that's the correct update. So just 4 dates that need to be moved up 1 year.
Committee, this is a conceptual amendment, and generally those aren't permitted because they're too, they make significant changes or changes that aren't just very specific or one word or one particular date for a technical update, because this bill is a holdover from last session. So if there aren't any objections to, I'm going to allow the conceptual amendment this time because it's merely updating the bill from last session to this session and not any substantive changes. So if we have then a motion or a comment from Senator Gossage.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that we pass Senate Bill 292 out favorably as amended, the conceptual amendment, and I would correct the spelling of the word receive at the top of page 10. Assistant English, I and a former English teacher, and I always seem to catch misspellings.
So let's take those one at a time. And I think we need to back up before we ask for a second on that motion and determine whether the committee is going to adopt the amendment on changing and updating the dates. So if we could work that amendment first, will you withdraw your motion and make another one?
Yes, Madam Chair, I withdraw that motion and I move that we accept the amendments to Senate Bill 292, the conceptual amendment.
And that would be, thank you, to change the dates in the 4 places that the reviser has mentioned regarding reference to the KSA supplements, as well as, the last one was changing the date from, excuse me, on page 1, line 30, from the year 24 to the year 2025. And if you all understood that motion for an amendment, if there's a second, that would be in order. Thank you, Senator Bowers. With that, committee, any discussion? Then you all have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We are back on the bill. Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass out as amended Senate Bill number 292 favorably.
Thank you, committee. Is there a second? Senator Corson. Any discussion? You all have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you, committee. Then that bill will be sent to the Senate chamber. And the next bill I'd like for us to take a look at is the other bill regarding the Kansas National Guard as well. So if we could have that bill number, it's a House bill, and we'll take a look at that.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Jason Thompson, once again, is House Bill 2392, 2392, and it's the version as amended by House Committee. Very briefly, it updates the entire Kansas Code of Military Justice. It deals with definitions, unlawful acts, punishment requirements, a series of updates related to conforming with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, and also a lot of modern drafting sort of updates to the language and the style that's used in the code.
Thank you. Committee, any questions for the reviser? Oh. And just to note for the committee that this is also a carryover bill from last session. It was very busy last session, and I think we were just having other bills that came up and were being worked on and advanced. So we're glad to get to this. And with that, then, if we have any discussion or a motion. And before we do, I want to ask the reviser one question. Just a moment. Sorry about that. Committee, these are 2 bills that are covering substantially the same subject matter. One does deal with criminal, one does more deal with civil in the military setting. Each chamber has not seen the other's bill yet, so I was considering combining them into one, but if it's the will of the committee that we continue to work them separately, that's acceptable as well. Senator Olson.
You know, a lot of times when I was chairman, this was be a gift for conference, but you know, a lot of times you'd want to push this one through, and even though the other one's pretty similar, just something to think about.
Keep them separate.
And I'd kick it out. So if you need a bill later.
All right, well, thank you. Then are there any questions for the reviser on House Bill 2932? Do I have that right? 2392, I'm sorry, I wrote it down here. Well, then I'll entertain a motion. Senator Olson. And we're going to have to repeat that because we need you on the microphone and we need to amend the dates. So I apologize. Do you want to move the amendment first?
Sure. I'll move the amendment of the dates as a conceptual amendment on House Bill 2392.
Thank you. And second from Senator Gossage. You all have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. We are back on the bill. Senator Olson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll move that we pass out House Bill 2392 as amended, favorable for passage.
Is there a second? Senator Gossage. You all have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries, and that bill is sent to the Senate chamber as well. Next, I'd like for the committee to consider on either Tuesday or Wednesday last week, we heard 3 fentanyl bills brought to us by the Kansas Attorney General, one of them brought to us by the Johnson County District Attorney, and the other by other law enforcement entities. So we're going to ask for those bill numbers from the reviser, and then we'll take them one at a time with bill information. Go ahead, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. Jason Thompson again. You have Senate Bill 4, just in numerical order, 413, 413, 414, 414, and 419, 419.
If you'll just take them in numerical order, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you again. So Senate Bill 413 is the shortest of, well, not the shortest of the two dealing with fentanyl distribution. This is the one that amends KSA 21-5705 about distribution of controlled substances to add higher penalties for distribution of any substance containing quantities of fentanyl-related controlled substances. It puts it in the same category as the current law for heroin and methamphetamine, so it gets higher penalties just like those substances do.
Thank you. Committee, any questions? Not seeing any. Is there a motion or discussion? Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass Bill SB 413 out of committee favorably.
Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Bowers. Committee, you all have heard the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Thank you. And that bill is sent to the Senate chamber. Next, Senate Bill 414 with information from the reviser.
Thank you again, Madam Chair. So this is the same statute, Senate Bill 414, same statute, KSA 21-5705. This one is the one that increases the penalties for fentanyl-related controlled substances to the same level as heroin and methamphetamine, just like we discussed in the prior bill. But it also amends KSA 21-6805, which is the sentencing grid statute for drug offenses. And it amends the special rule adopted by last year's legislature that makes the penalty for manufacturing fentanyl-related controlled substances double the maximum duration of the presumptive term. And the bill would add distribution of those substances to that special rule, doubling the duration. I should note it only applies to distribution that is a drug severity level 1, 2, or 3 felony. There are some distribution crimes that are a level 4 felony, and those would not be subject to the special rule.
Committee, any questions for the reviser? I'm not seeing any. Since these are subject matter related and it would be efficient and practical to combine 413 into 414, is there a motion to amend Senate Bill 414 by adding the contents of Senate Bill 413 into it. I guess I can make the motion if there's a second for that. Do we have a second? Thank you, Senator Bowers. Any discussion? So you all have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries, and we are back on the bill, Senate Bill 414 as amended. Is there a motion or further discussion? Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass 414 as amended out of committee favorably.
Thank you. Question, Senator Olson.
Did we not pass 413 already?
We did.
So now you're gonna put the contents in here. So what are you gonna do with 413? You're gonna have two bills with 413. It's not a big deal to me, but.
Sure. Question for the reviser.
Madam Chair, it's really just a matter of you could
Well, we could clean up 413 and revisit that, but
essentially you have passed the bill out, so you can either report it favorably and it can sit on general orders, below the line, or you could reconsider the action and keep it here in committee. Those are really the two options I see.
well, since right, well, we need to keep 413 in committee so we can add it into 414. And so I'm going to move that we reconsider our motion on passing Senate Bill 413 favorably for passage out of committee. Do I have a second to that motion? Yes, Senator Olson.
We got a motion and a second, so we probably better pass it first on 414 before you rescind the motion.
As amended.
Well,
Madam Chair, I withdraw my motion.
thank you. So there's no motion on the table that's been seconded because she withdrew her motion and I have made a motion to reconsider 413 that hasn't been seconded.
I'll second.
Are we procedurally okay, Mr. Reviser?
Madam Chair, probably. It's entirely up to the committee at this point. If you follow what you're doing and you make the votes, we can report it out. I did want to point out, just to simplify things, you can still move the contents of 413 whether or not the bill is here. So you could just proceed and then go back to 413 if that's easier, because you're just talking about the contents. You're not talking about the actual bill, like reporting the bill. You're just making an amendment based on the bill, if that makes sense. So you could proceed with the motion you were on and still go back and reconsider. That would be procedurally okay.
Well, right now we have a motion to reconsider. So, and we have a second. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. So we're going to then take a look at Senate Bill 413. Pause. We're going to look at Senate Bill 414. And my motion was then to move the contents of Senate Bill 413 into Senate Bill 414. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Senator Olson. Any discussion? You all have heard the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Then do we have a motion on Senate Bill 414 as amended?
I move that we pass Senate Bill 414 out favorable for passage as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Gossage. You all have heard the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. And then finally, on the fentanyl-related bills that we heard last week, we will take a look at Senate Bill 419 and with information from the reviser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Apologies for the delay, committee. We're just making sure we had all the motions and seconds recorded for the record so we can get minutes done correctly for you later. Moving then to Senate Bill 419. This is the bill relating to aggravated endangering a child. That's a current crime, KSA 21-5601. And you currently provide penalties that are enhanced if you knowingly permit or cause a child to be in an environment related to manufacturing or distributing methamphetamine. The bill proposes to make that same penalty and enhanced crime apply to any place where you're manufacturing or distributing fentanyl-related controlled substances. In addition, it raises the general penalty for the crime as a whole of aggravated endangering a child, which can be committed a number of different ways, but it raises the penalty for that when bodily harm is inflicted upon the child to a severity level 6. So there's a fentanyl-related provision and a general provision relating to when harm to a child results. That's the bill.
Committee, any questions for the revisor? Any discussion or a motion? Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass Senate Bill number 419 out favorably for passage.
Thank you. Is there a second? Senator Bowers. Thank you. You all have heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Committee, we are going to be jam-packed with our agenda next week, so I'd like to take this opportunity while we still have a few minutes here today and turn our attention to a bill we heard last Wednesday, Senate Bill 394. And with information from the revisor, this is requiring the use of age verification technology to permit access to internet websites containing material that is harmful to minors. So with that, then, information from the revisor.
And thank you again, Madam Chair. Jason Thompson again from the Revisor's Office. Senate Bill 394, as you stated, is the bill about age verification technology and access to websites containing material that is harmful to minors. It is a new section of law. Essentially, if a commercial entity is knowingly sharing or distributing material that is harmful to minors on a website, and that material is on 25% or more of the web pages viewed on the website in a calendar month, or if they're the entity knowingly hosting such a website, they are required to verify that a person attempting to access the site who is a resident of Kansas or is located in Kansas is 18 years of age or older. It's a violation of the section to allow a person to access it without verifying they are 18 years of age or older, and the age verification can be done using commercially available means that are not specified in the bill, so it's open to how they want to do that verification. And I'll just note, there are two enforcement mechanisms. There's both a cause of action by the Attorney General to investigate and bring actions for injunctive relief, but there's also a cause of action provided for the parent or legal guardian of a minor who is able to access it without verifying their age. They could bring a private cause of action against those same commercial entities.
Thank you. Committee questions for the revisor? Not seeing any. Is there discussion or motion? Senator Gossage.
I'm assuming there were no amendments on this bill, Madam Chair?
Well, we're working it now, so this would be the time to bring them.
No, that's okay. I have none. It's just I started to give a motion earlier and then we.
Okay.
So I just wanted to
Good
be
question.
sure.
Good question. Questions from WebEx? Yes. Do we have questions from WebEx? Senator Haley.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Look, I'm certainly very supportive of the intent of this legislation. As the father of 4 now adult but very precocious teens who access the web, I was constantly concerned with what I believe this bill is trying to address. But there was testimony, there was some concern that came up as to how there's verification as to how we're able to work out where it came from. We heard from some of the neutral, I believe the conferee. I don't have my notes in front of me, and I just have some genuine concerns about the implementation and finding out how we make this bill workable. And I just wanted to put those back out there for the committee's sake to consider. I don't have a vote on WebEx today, but I certainly have those ongoing concerns about how we implement this bill, which is necessary, but how we bring about those verifications.
Thank you. Committee, other discussion or motion? Yes, Senator Gossage.
Madam Chair, I move that we pass Senate Bill 394 out of committee favorably.
Is there a second? Senator Olson, I saw your hand earlier, but Senator Olson. Sorry, Senator Bowers. Hand was up first over that way. So absolutely. Thank you. Committee, you all have heard the motion. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, then you all have heard the motion. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries. Committee, that brings us pretty close to 11:30, and we've done some good work here today. And thank you for your attention, and thank you for the senators appearing on WebEx as well, and those in the committee meeting room, our conferees, those following all along online, and to our staff as well. So with that, committee, we will be meeting Tuesday, and every day this week is the plan. So we intend to hear a lot of bills. There will be a revised agenda coming out this morning, and will be possible final action on bills each day as well. Because as you know, we're running out of opportunities to meet as a committee and work on and pass out bills out of this committee. So thank you very much. And with that, then we are adjourned.